Yo. Welcome back to the Mark Hours podcast, the official podcast of YouTube. What's good with you, Moses?
Life is good, man.
What's good about life?
Can't complain. Juneteenth is coming up.
That's good.
Shout out to all my black co-workers not working. I don't know why.
Do you have the day off?
I do. We do.
That's
you
good.
You have the day off.
I'm off that day anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This is what, the second year, the third year that we officially.
There's a third
official
federal holiday.
So I'm looking forward to that, man.
You know why I'm happy today?
What's up?
We have a special guest today.
You gonna put the sound effects?
You keep giving me more work to do every time you say sound effects. like you keep giving ideas, and then people would expect sound effects. Ain't gonna be no sound effects.
I just did the sound effect.
Oh, thank you. But we got a special guest here today. I call her the Yvette, but Yvette is here with us. Please introduce yourself to the podcast.
So I am, as Chris said, the Yvette. I am a friend of both of you.
Yes.
And I'm really excited to be here. I watch you guys, listen to you guys, so it's really nice to be
that's great.
Sort of in the hot seat now. I'm a little nervous about what we're going to talk about, but, let's do it.
Don't.
Yeah, I don't know why people be thinking we're like the Breakfast Club or something.
No.
We're pretty chill. Yeah, how this came about was, as you guys know, we did an interview with Elle.
Shout out to Elle.
Back. Shout out to Elle.
And she told us how instrumental you were to her success. Mm-hmm. And I told you this at the party where we, met up.
That's really how this came up. We met.
Yeah.
We saw each other at a happy hour in Baltimore. And then he was just like, hey,
you have to
come
on.
And I was like, all right.
And I apologized because I was like, I did not know. I didn't know you was this. Like, when she was telling us how, like, all the contact for anything goes through you, and you filter that, you tell her what needs to be done, how much money we have, and you say, don't even worry about all this. We're going to get it through. And she just has to worry about it. I was like, oh, so you, like... you that person, like
you are the man behind the man.
So I had to apologize for that. But yeah, I'm super curious. I'm very, very excited for this interview, and I think there's a lot that both of us can learn from. Just your drive and how you see things and execute. I think that's something that I'm really curious to get to know.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys. So let's get it.
So let's start from the top. Like, how did this come to be? Since this is basically not really a part 3 from the Deckerel type of interview, but you being who you are, what do you do? What have you studied? Who is the Yvette?
Thank you. It's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of different things. I am a lawyer sort of by training.
Mm-hmm.
I am a law professor by sort of career choice. I practiced for a few years before moving into academia. I don't practice anymore, but I'm still a lawyer, so I could if I wanted to. I'm barred in Maryland and DC, so I could take on cases if I wanted to.
Wait. So when you say you're in academia, you're not a student?
No, I am a full-time tenure-track law professor.
Yo.
Hold on.
I thought you was talking about she went back to school.
No. to teach.
Well, she said, I don't practice anymore. I'm in academia. I was like, oh, she's getting her PhD?
No.
She's going back for a master's?
To teach.
Okay.
I always make this joke, and I'm going to get the joke out the way early. Because Chen, he's Nigerian. You are...
Ghanaian.
Yes. Was the choice of being a lawyer made for you? Or was it something that you really wanted to get into?
So, in, I think, part 1 or part 2, there was this discussion about, like, it's either you're a doctor, a lawyer, or engineer, right? When it comes to being West African or an immigrant. And funny story, like the career that was chosen for me was medicine. Yeah, like
I could have swore you was like a bio.
I was supposed to be a doctor. And I think if I asked my mom today, she would still want that to be the case.
Out of everything you are, out of everything you achieve, she's like, you're going to go back to school to be a doctor.
She's like, and the whole thing was like literally about the white coat. And I'm like, I could buy a damn white coat. I could buy 700. I don't need to go to med school to wear a white coat. What are you talking about? But, yeah, like I, dabbled. I was pre-med, like Chin said. And then I took organic chemistry.
Yeah,
and
I saw all my pre-med.
That was the beginning of the end.
Really? It was like, oh yeah, I'm not
You
doing
would never
this.
think 3 elements would have so much headache. It's insane. And it's so many different. Like, I don't know how people even survive. And then after you finish Orgo, you got Orgo
2. Right? So when I found out about the second, I was like, I can't even get through the first. So how am I supposed to look at that life? But most importantly, I think I also realized that like it was boring as hell to me. I found it to be not very sociable. Like I didn't think that I would be able to use all the skills that I have, that I know that I have in medicine. Like I probably would have been a bomb ass doctor, but I would have been bored. Yeah. Like,
but was it sad for you when you realized like, yeah, I'm not gonna get that white coat?
No, it was more sad for my mom. She mourned that situation, that decision. But one thing about me is I make my own decisions in everything. And so...
Even when you was young?
Even, like, from when I was, like, 6.
Really?
I would literally just make decisions for myself. Whether they were contrarian or, my parents were in support or not in support. I just lived my life for me, generally. Even as a kid. And of course that was like very strange, and people were like, who is this child? My mom's like, I don't know. I don't know who she is, but I didn't feel one way or the other about making that decision. I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. And so then I told her.
You didn't have like a identity crisis? Because a lot of times, especially as, growing in a West African household, if your parents and, you are always having this idea of, oh, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be this. Even from, early. Usually there's like some type of identity crisis where it's like, oh, I'm not this anymore. What am I supposed to do?
No, I mean, I didn't even know what I was going to do next. I just knew that wasn't what I was going to do.
Interesting.
And so I was like, okay, well, I like sociology, I like psychology. It looks like I'm more of like a humanities kind of person. And it goes back to like when I was a young kid, I was obsessed with the question why. Like I wanted to know why everything. Normal kids want to know why, right? They'll ask you why everything. But mine was more like, I want to know how people think. I want to know, like why Africa is in the state that it's in. Why are white people different from black people? Like I wanted to know these kinds of questions, which were all based on like human behavior and sociological issues. And so, and of course I didn't know that when I was a kid, but like having taken sociology 101, I was like, oh, like these are questions that I'm interested in and I want to explore more.
I'm interested in your childhood. How strict was your household? Because me growing up, I grew up in church. So my mother was very, you have to be in church, things like that. I grew up with Chin. And Chin's, his parenting was more on, you going to go to school, you go get the education. Mine was more on, you go know God, at least you go to heaven. You do whatever you want to do. I don't care if you're a janitor, as long as I get you into heaven. Yeah. So what is the blend, if there is a blend, on how strict your household was? How high was education? I wish it, of course, if your parents want you to be a doctor, obviously it's up there. But please tell me about your childhood, of your upbringing.
Sure. Education, of course, is number one in everything. But neither of my parents were, college grads or anything like that. So they knew that that was the only way that we would get free, like to be who we needed to be as a family.
So that's freedom in your household.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Freedom and wealth and, sort of just like building your own empire, I guess, is through education. And so education was number one. But will I say church was like a big deal? No, like we're God-fearing people, but I was agnostic for...
Really?
Yeah, I was. So I didn't grow up in church. Yeah. I went to church. I would go to church with my parents or my mom. My dad claims he's a Jehovah's Witness, but...
Shout out to the Jehovah's Witnesses.
He celebrates more than anyone I know, so I don't know. I think he just uses that as an excuse to not.
Listen here, they said only 133,000 will make it in. I'm like, if that's the case, I think we missed the boat, brother. God is sort of this central to all of it, but going to church and like having your own relationship with God are two different things, right? And so around like 15, 16, I was just like, I'm just going through the motions here. Yeah. Like it looks like I go to church and I'm like listening to what is being said, but I'm not like, yes, I know and believe that God exists, but I'm not reading my Bible. I'm not engaging. I'm not doing any of, so it's like, so I was like, let me see what else is out there. So I started to just like read and read and read and read. Eventually I came back to Christianity, or like I picked Christianity, but for a while I was like, yeah, I'm agnostic. Like I acknowledge that.
Like, crystals and stones?
No. No offense to anyone.
Shout out to my crystal girls.
No offense to anyone, but no, I didn't go that far, like in terms of trying to figure it out. I was like, the religions are pretty similar. Yeah. Like there is a God, no matter what we call him, it's her, like whatever. Yeah. But I wasn't like, I couldn't say I was a Christian because I wasn't doing the Christian thing. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, eventually I did get saved. I got saved when I was 18, and it's actually through Summer and some other friends that I decided to get saved, because it matters who's around you, right? Yeah. Like, for a while, like, I was dating someone who's atheist. So, of course, being around other people who are atheists, that's not going to encourage you to fellowship or, like, dig deeper. But then, like, life happens where you just move on.
Yeah.
And so I met Summer through this guy that I dated, and, started going to church with her and him, and I just felt like, I was like, oh, okay, like, Christianity's not so bad. Like, they seem cool.
Dude, you know what's funny? And Chen, at any point, just jump in and cut me off if you have something. But
I would never do that, bro.
But you can. But it's funny you say you got saved at 18, because even though me and Yvette went to the same high school, I didn't connect with Yvette through high school. Yeah. I actually connected with Yvette through, we had like college Bible study on the phone. And I don't care if it was 4 people on the phone or 10 people on the phone. I was on the phone every time, and I was the one always speaking, because I grew up in church. So like I know the church lingo. I know how to I'm not faking it. You get what I'm saying?
Like you have the
so I find it so interesting that coming from 2 different households in that position for me, because I don't think my parents graduated from college and things like that. My dad was an athlete in college, so education wasn't number one. Is getting to baseball. So to them, especially my mom, it was about going to church. If you got homework to do, you do it when you get back from church. You know what I mean? I remember like growing up with Chen didn't come to church if he had homework and things like that. Because it's like it's so important. And now that you say that your degree or school actually gives you, or in your family means freedom and wealth, of that, how did that go from getting your education to being an entrepreneur? Because that seems kind of backwards.
Yeah, I call myself an accidental entrepreneur, because it's not something that, like, it wasn't, my parents weren't entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is not something that's like pushed on, like immigrants or West Africans, I guess I could say.
It's weird.
Like, get a job.
Because it's risky, so I'm wondering, how did you get there?
But there's so many African entrepreneurs, though.
So many. So that's the thing. It's like...
It's so weird.
It's not something that is like... It's always go to school, get a job.
Mm-hmm.
Not create jobs, not like... Nothing.
Create
it's like,
business,
right. Yeah. But I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I think some part of me doesn't believe that I'm a creative. Right? I used to tell myself this story.
Mm-hmm.
And then my fiance was like, actually, no, you are a creative. You're just, it's not in the artistic way.
Yeah.
You are creative in your thought. You're creative in your solutions, your approach. And I'm like, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that.
Yeah.
But Decorel was like not supposed to be mine.
Really?
No, not at all. So Decorel was Elle's dream that I realized, I guess. I really don't know the word to use.
Mm-hmm.
So no one pushed me into entrepreneurship. In fact, I like ran away from entrepreneurship. I was like, why would I ever?
Yeah.
I'm the type of person. You know how they say if you build it, they will come.
Mm-hmm.
I am they. I will come. I am not.
You're not building.
The builder. I will come. I will make it more efficient. I will, do all the things that you've created a position for me. I will do that. But like to be the builder, I'm just too risk averse. Like
really?
Yeah.
Dude, you know what's funny about that? Like while you're talking, I'm hearing Elle like in my head. I'm going through the interview in my head. And I wonder, was it, even though you're not that person, with your sister Elle, with your family Elle, because you see the potential in somebody else, does it make it more like, you know what, I'm going to push you to that?
Yes.
Because in a way, even though it's mine now, it's really not mine, so it's not really risky.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like, you know what, I see it in you, I'm going to go 100%
That's
behind
such
you.
a great point.
Yeah. That's me in a nutshell. Like, I'm a problem solver, which is why I'm a lawyer. Like, I'm a problem solver. Yeah. That's what I do. That's what I do in my family. That's what I do at work. That's what I do in my businesses. That's just who I am as a person. In any room that I walk in, I am the problem solver. So it almost felt like, okay, I see something in you, and I don't have that thing, but I know you do, and I know you don't have the tools to do it. So I will give you the tools to do it.
Yeah.
And I will give you the push that you need, and I will give you the resources and blah, blah, blah to do it. So that's what this started as, really. Like, it was supposed to be her company.
You just helping out your sister, basically.
I'm just, I'm just, you know what I mean? I'm just like, assisting.
Yeah.
And then it sort of morphed over the years into like, oh no, like this is a partnership. Like we're doing this together. Yeah. Because what I envisioned was like, I'm just going to push you a little farther than you can push yourself. And then like, I'll be here if you need me. That's not how it went.
And maybe is what you were talking about, how because it's somebody else and somebody that you love, that it gives you that I guess strength to push her. But it's weird and funny because Elle also says she's risk averse and she leans on you to take those risky positions. So what is the mindset, I guess? Is it like, what is that mindset? To be like, okay, I'm risk averse, but I believe so much into this person that I'm willing for both of us to potentially fail.
The risk aversion is my risk aversion is kind of interesting in that I fear nothing. It's so weird.
Okay, Batman.
Like I have fears, but once I make a decision about something, like there's no turning back until I fail. But I don't play games that I'm gonna lose.
That's what my little sister is.
Yeah, like I will not play. Like if I know that like FIFA right now,
Not playing.
I'm not playing it because I'm not good at it. I'm not gonna be. No, I'm not. So I do take risks, but
it's calculated in a way.
Yeah, it's calculated in a way, and I just have so much belief in God and in myself and my abilities that once I make a decision about something, it's bound to just be complete and work.
Both of us, who do you think is more risk averse?
You.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I can see that.
For sure. For sure.
I'll be taking risks, but
For sure.
It's very calculated.
Yeah. But it's crazy because even though I'm confident, I may not fear nothing like you do, but like with me, because of where I'm from and where I was raised, I was born in Jersey City and I lived in Baltimore City. So we didn't have a lot, but like I never needed anything. I never. So losing everything really don't mean anything to me. It's like, okay, I went from 2 to 0. It's like I didn't fall that far.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, when it comes to being risky for me, it's actually more smart to be risky in my position because it's like I have so much more to gain than to lose compared to somebody who may have went to school to be a lawyer, who may have done all these things, and you want to quit all of that or put all that to the side to do something that is very slight. There's entrepreneurs who don't get don't pay themselves until like year 2, year 3,
year 5.
Yeah, so that's why it's interesting. Today, do you feel like, even though like it's L company, do you feel like it's your company as well too, or do you still feel like I'm really just assisting?
I feel like it's my company too, but I feel more like I'm like still sort of like rowing the boat.
Yeah.
And I keep pushing her. Just like 2 days ago, I was like, hey, like, it's gonna be fine, you know, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I just want her to like gain that self-confidence that 1, you're the CEO of this company.
Yeah.
2, have the majority shares of this company.
Yeah.
And you need to walk like it, talk like it, deal like it. Because what happens if I'm not there anymore? She keeps saying, she's like, she can't run the company without me. I'm like, you cannot say that.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, Elle, be careful. I think Yvette trying to plan her.
No!
She's trying to play the exit already.
No, but like, you should be able to, and this is how I operate. It's like, can I do this by myself? If I have help, that would be nice. But if I don't, then I should be okay. Like, I should be fine doing the thing by myself before the help comes in. Because, you know, life happens.
Yeah.
Like, there are people you can depend on, but like, also people change. And,
Yeah.
you know, shit happens and
Yeah.
people let you down. And so I don't put my eggs in anyone's basket. Just mine.
That's interesting. And I'm not trying to come off as if this is like some motivational type of thing. So where did this confidence come from? Even though you're very confident in all these things.
That's the same question I asked her at the party.
Yeah, but I guess the way I want to ask it, or the vantage point I want to attack it, is, what are your losses? Like, for someone to be that confident, were you always like a winner? Like, you always came out on top? Or did you stumbling? Like what are your stumbling blocks? Let's hear some losses of Yvette, if you have any at this point.
That's a good question. I wouldn't say that I'm a winner. I think most people who see from the outside in think that that's the case. That's my story, which is great. Like, you know, shout out to branding, branding and marketing. But it's not like life's just been like a cakewalk.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't grow up, you know, in poverty or anything like that, but my parents came here or brought us here the same thing, like in pursuit of a better life, better educational opportunities. Here, when I got here, it was the first like run-in with racism. I'm like, what is this?
Wait, you weren't born?
No, I wasn't born here. I was born in Ghana. And I lived in Ghana for 9 years before I came here.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I was 9. And so coming here and like being hit in the face with this thing called racism, I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on? So dealing with that was like problematic for me because I'm like, I feel out of body. I feel like this is weird and I don't belong here and I don't want to be here. So one day I went home to my parents and I was like crying and I was like, I hate this place. I want to go home. I don't like these people. They don't like me and I don't really...
Makes sense.
Whatever. And my parents were like, excuse me? You were going to let people dictate where you should and shouldn't be, how you should respond and shouldn't respond. Like, no one tells you who you are, and they just basically put me in my place about, like, who I am as a person. That moment changed my life.
Really?
Of course, in that moment, I didn't realize that. Yeah. But, like, looking back on it, I'm like, oh, like, that 10 minutes with my parents telling me who I am, like, I am Yvette. I am, my God name is not Adoli. Like, you belong here. You are smarter than them. You are better than them. You look better than them. You speak multiple languages. Like, these are the things that were said to me at a very young age. So, from that moment, it was just like, oh. Like...
It's just a light bulb.
Yeah, like, I was like, oh, yeah. I believe,
I am better than these people.
That, and I am this. Yeah. And from that moment, it was like, okay, well, I can't let anyone dictate who I am and what I do and any of that. That's where the confidence comes from.
I think that's a testament to like how powerful it is to speak words of encouragement to your kids. I think there are parents that would saw that situation and be like, oh wait, what? No, we're going to do something about this. This is not right. You're just instead of saying, why are you even listening?
My dad was like, what the?
Like, why even, like, do you not, like, why do you even care what they, like, changing that perspective versus, like, oh, this is a bad thing that just happened. Which kind of makes you feel less than. Now, you can still deal with the situation, but make sure you speak life into that child and let that child know that this is not something you need to be worried about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at some point, my dad would come pick me up and we would speak my language and they would be laughing and snickering. So I just stopped. I tried to stop speaking the language. He was not having it.
Really?
He said, girl, please. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're upset. He was like, they're upset because they can't speak another language. And you're going to let them take your language away from you?
That is a very interesting perspective, but I get it, though.
Yeah, he was like, you cannot let them take your language. And so these are like little like things throughout that I've heard from my family. Another one is like my grandmother was very big on like walking with your head down or like your shoulders like scrunched. Like it's like you don't walk into any space looking down.
Yeah, I'm gonna teach my kids that.
You don't walk into any space looking down. You walk in any room with your head held high. So, I mean, that's how I am. Yeah. So any room that I walk into, some people are intimidated, some people feel welcome, but I'm like,
I'm here.
That's my posture. So I belong everywhere.
Yeah, that's there's one thing that I want to instill in all my kids. I don't care how messed up you did something or how much in trouble you are. When you come greet me, you look me in the eye. I don't even have kids, but my imaginary kids. You look me in the eye. You keep your head up. You could cry. You could be sad. You could feel hurt that you disappoint me. But you look me in the eye and you keep your head up. Don't sulk. Don't cry. Don't be like, I'm sorry, Daddy. No, you look me in the eye and say, I'm sorry, Daddy. I shouldn't do that. Like I like instilling those types of things, even though it's very minute, it does something to that person's character when they are in front of like a CEO and they have to admit to their mistakes. Instead of being scared and whimpering, they'd be like, yes, I messed up, CEO. This is what happened, or I messed up, team. This is what happened, but be able to still keep your head up high. I think that's very important.
But what I'm getting even from your statement, Chin, is that even being Nigerian and being from Ghana, like y'all are a prideful people, and it seems like, or proud people. I like using the word proud, like knowing who you are, knowing where you're from. One thing that was drilled into even my childhood is like just being black. I don't know where I'm from. Basically, talk about African Americans and so forth. So it's so interesting to hear you say that by the age of 9 you came here, and it seemed like America, if we were to put it in quotes, America was trying to strip away that pride and making you mostly like how Americans are. You know what I mean? Like basically, if you're a woman, you're not supposed to look a man in the eye. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you something.
What happened?
Because I'm glad that you brought this up.
What happened?
I've been talking to my homegirl about this for a while. Because I'm like, something about American culture that I'm not understanding. Just the 9 years that I've spent more years here than I have in Ghana in terms of like upbringing and time. But those 9 years that I spent in Ghana really shaped the way that I think and approach things so much that I can't even like explain it. There are certain things that I see in like people who are born here, whether they're foreign or not, who are born here, who are raised here, that like I can't see in myself. Imposter syndrome, I don't know what that is.
Really?
Like I know what it is, but I don't for myself. I don't know what it is.
I have that sometimes.
Or this distinction between man and woman, like what women are supposed to do versus what men are supposed to do. It's like, what? Like
it's just not clicking for you.
It doesn't click. It doesn't click.
And you telling me like even when you was going through like the bar and things like that, like you never experienced like anybody or anything like that to where it's like, hey, what's like.
I will get to a point. It's the same way like when I was 9 and they're like saying things to me. I'm like, that's weird. I guess I'm not supposed to be here. Like, but then I'm like, wait, but why? Back to my why question. Why? When I got my first law firm job,
that's funny.
I was like, oh man, I've heard all these things about like a diversity hire kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, maybe I am a diversity hire. And then I get in there and I'm like, no, like your dad is a judge. You're, like, and I'm like this is. I don't have time. Like, this is not going to affect me. Where I'm going to sit here and like boo-hoo about something that I'm qualified to be here.
Even if I'm not,
I'm here.
I got the same paycheck you got. It's what it is.
Yeah, like
I'm not
internalizing these things, or like. There's this big movement about, women at work, like, apologizing. Like, saying, I'm sorry. Or,
really?
These things.
Yeah.
I'm like, I never had that problem. Nobody taught me that. Or maybe I didn't learn it.
But it's interesting because no one really taught us, and I'm speaking for America, I guess. No one really came out and just say, like, be humble and things like that. You kind of see it. You kind of subconsciously learn how to maneuver, and even going through. And I'm guessing, and you can correct me. Is being a lawyer during that time, is it evenly split between men and women, or is it mostly
semi-evenly split? There are more women, just slightly more women than there are men.
Okay.
But like not so much, like 58% to like. You know what I mean?
I wasn't even expecting that.
Yeah. There are more women in law schools than there are men.
And I'm getting to the point of like just even seeing you here. Like I love your hair because I like wearing my hair out like that too. And it's like you didn't change who you are, even though subconsciously we may have been taught in American. Like, okay, Chris, before an interview, you make sure you go get a haircut. You make sure you don't wear braids. You make sure you don't do that.
But is that an African thing? Because I could have swore Africans be telling you cut your hair.
No, it's not an African thing. I really don't think so. Africans love respectability, child. Like too much. Because I mean, this is a whole nother like issue in terms of
my fault. The pride is there.
The pride is there, but they want to be accepted by whites. A lot of it is like trying to be white adjacent, and it's really sad when you think about it, because they don't realize that that's what's going on. But that's what colonialism does. That's what white supremacy does. It's like it warps your sense of like what it is that you think you're proud about. But I definitely don't think it's an African thing. Like they do be like, no, wear this, do that, speak like this, because they want. It's just like wanting to be white adjacent. But I mean, I was advised like, don't wear loud colors.
Really?
Maybe you should straighten your hair for the interview.
Really?
Or blah blah blah. Like I'm like, thanks for the advice. I wore braids to my law firm interview.
Let's go.
I wore pants.
Let's go.
Like they were like, wear a skirt suit, do this, do that. And I'm like, yeah, but I look better in pants. So I'm gonna wear pants. And the whole idea is like, I cannot put on a facade.
Yeah.
You're gonna see me in braids. I don't need. So if I interview in braids, then that's who you're gonna get. Of course, I'm professional. I'm extremely smart. I'm all those things, but I'm not gonna straighten my hair. Sorry, not sorry.
That is interesting.
Yeah, it's I remember one of the things, because one thing that I'm doing for myself, this is a side note, is I'm getting mentorship from anybody. So at first I had to humble myself, because there's people in my life who are younger than me that know more than me. For example, my sister. And one thing that my sister told me, especially when advancing in my career, one thing she told me is like, come to work as you want to be. Don't do that first impression nonsense where you're like, I'm this type of way, and then you start to, because people gonna be like, oh, he's not as motivated as he was, or this person is changing. Or she said, I go to work in sweats and a hoodie, and that was the first thing. That was the first day, and because that's what I'm comfortable in. I have my crazy braids because she has all these colors, and she's like, I want people to know this is who I am, so they shouldn't expect anything more. And then everything else, if they wanted to see anything else, like, okay, maybe I might do this day or that day, but this is who I am. And one thing for me, which I think I told you once, is like, the reason why I still have my locks is because I want people to see, oh, somebody who's coding and doing software engineering with locks, who's not like, Waka Flocka or
rapper.
It's like, oh no, people with locks also code. People in locks also have tech jobs. People with locks also, instead of like the whole fade or. So I love that you said that. That really resonated with me.
Yeah, you have to be yourself.
That's crazy.
In everything.
But it's hard being yourself. Like I'm not gonna lie and say that it's easy. I think eventually a lot of people step into being themselves later in their years, probably the mid-30s and things like that, or even.
But isn't that suffocating?
No, it definitely is. And then even then, when people think they know who they are, they kind of question and they go through a midlife crisis or things like that. And they realize that they want to be something and they want a Corvette or they just want to move. It's life is all about. Life is all about.
Over here?
It's just inside knowledge.
It's just interesting because my only fear is that we're doing everything and doing all these steps. I don't want to be at the end of my road and be like, for what?
For what?
You get what I'm saying? So I think it's very important that at a young age, that the age that you remember, that you was like, you know what, I know who I am. Your parents reinforce that. Like, this is who you are, and things like that. When it comes to being a lawyer and things like that, what made you not want to practice anymore? Was it something that, was it a greater purpose of being a teacher? Or was it just like too easy?
Definitely wasn't easy.
It wasn't easy?
No.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a decision that I made, like, I'm going to stop practice or I don't want to practice anymore. I always knew that I wanted to be a professor.
Really?
Always. And it was really a decision in college after college between going to law school or pursuing a PhD.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get a master's or a PhD in sociology because that's what I studied and that's what I'm interested in. But I thought about it and I was like, I could do a lot more with law.
Mm.
I could practice if I wanted to.
Mm.
I could do research if I wanted to. I could become a professor if I wanted to. I could run for office if I wanted to.
That's true.
And so I thought going to law school was smarter, wiser, and probably just like more financially stable than pursuing a PhD.
Yeah.
So I already had it in my mind that I was going to teach at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened to happen sooner than I thought it would. The opportunity to teach happened sooner than I had expected or planned. And so, practicing was fine. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to not stop practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just...
The opportunity.
opportunity just presented itself, and...
Do you feel yourself changing being a professor? Because I remember that time where you was a teacher, Chen. And it kind of it was a fun
You
time.
were a teacher?
Not a professor.
No, but
You were a teacher.
So I got laid off in, what was it, 2017?
Okay.
And then we're going to get back. I got laid off in 2016, 2017. Actually, it might be in 2018. And so the following school year, because I couldn't get a job. I was like a junior, engineer. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't get a job anywhere. And so decided to, go look for other opportunities. And there was this guy that at one of these meetups that I used to go to that was like, hey, you should volunteer, blah, blah, blah. And he named this one program called Code in Schools.
Okay.
And so, I called up the place. The place said, yeah, we got a position. We really like you. We see your credentials. I think you'd be a great match. And so they put me in like this middle school in
Lord.
Wabash. And
Tell us more.
put me in school in Wabash. If you're from Baltimore, you know Wabash.
shout out to Wabash.
And I was supposed to teach them computer science.
Supposed to.
I was supposed to.
Now I'm curious. What did you teach them?
Who knows?
Hey, so at first we tried we did computer science, but those kids weren't. And one thing that I realized about teaching, especially middle school, like middle school is my favorite age.
I agree. I'm a big fan of middle school.
Yeah, I'm not like some people
I
hate middle school
Teenagers.
I hate high school.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
because they will really fight you
Yo,
and might win.
I hate teenagers.
I can't do with like kids.
Oh my goodness.
I hate all school, but that's just me.
I can't do little kids because their brains are not fully functional. So
Yeah.
they start saying, "Look at this cool trick," and spin around, and they're saying, "Look at that, what's that cool?" I'm like, "Bro, go sit down." Like, so I like middle school because they're old enough to like have real conversations, but young enough that they can't
Be
beat you up.
impressionable.
Yeah.
Have you been beaten up by high school?
I see too many videos. I see too many videos. I see all these world star videos where the teacher try to break up a fight. All of a sudden, he got to play this. Funny, Chris would send me these videos while I was a teacher.
I would.
Say, yo, watch out.
He said, "Hey, man, there's a green light on teachers." But yeah, no. So yeah, that period of my life, it was disheartening for me because you realize you can't save everybody, and then two, you just see so many teachers who probably had like the spark. Because I got in it just to help out. I do want to be a teacher later on. But I got in it because it was like an opportunity that presented itself. But there's so many teachers that was their passion. And then you see what those years do to them, where they're just like, we just got to get them in and out. Like, I'm going home right at 3 o'clock. I'm not staying. And I was like, one, I don't have the skills in my industry to even, convey this message in simple form for them to digest, one. And then two, I don't have the skill sets to handle this type of environment, like,
and that's where my question was going to. To where Yvette being the student is one thing. I'm going to excel. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work hard at it. But there is a saying in sports to where like the best players is not the best coaches because it just comes to them naturally, so they can't convey it in like a way that somebody that don't know anything can pick it up. Have there been things that you discovered about yourself as a professor that you was like, okay, I'm basically back at step one, that like I have to basically like build these new skills because I'm not a student. Now they dependent on me to learn this. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, practicing and teaching are two different things. Teaching is more theoretical. Teaching is more foundational. But practicing is more like, all right, well, I have some of the foundations. Now I just need to like do something with it and get a result. And so that's been a shift in my mind of trying to figure out, like, okay, even though I practiced in this area and I felt like I had a good handle on it, I had to come all the way to, like, level 1 to be like, okay, how do I learn this, master this, become an expert in this enough to be able to teach it to people who have never heard of it, seen it, talked about it, to get to a level of understanding where they can pass my exam, pass the bar, like, become lawyers. So that's, I mean, I'm sort of still in that like learning curve of doing that.
Do you feel joy in it? Like, do you feel a sense of accomplishment once you see people actually getting it and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I did that. Yes. I mean, I'm in my element when I am teaching, and not just like teaching in a school, but like overall, like doing this is right here for me.
That's so interesting because growing up, teachers wasn't, even today, maybe a little better than before. Being a teacher was something to be mocked about. You get what I'm saying? Like, the teacher don't make a lot of money. Why?
But she a professor.
I understand that. No.
I was a teacher.
I understand that. But you have people that be like, why would you become a teacher? Like, for example, even like in middle schools or even high school, you have people that, you know what, I'm going to teach while this is like a gap. This is basically a bridge while I'm really still in school or while I'm doing something else. But to hear somebody who's, even though they are a professor, they be like, teaching is really, like, I'm in my element when I'm teaching and things like that. Compared to...
Is it teaching that I don't know if it's teaching, because I'm not teaching here. But it's...
People?
Interacting with people, seeing how people's minds work, impressing upon people what I think, hearing what other people, like engaging. I call it discourse. That's what I'm interested in.
Okay.
I'm interested in discourse. Watching people process, helping people process, people helping me process. Like I like that whole sort of interaction. And so I feel good when I'm teaching because it's like I'm moving something forward. I feel like this discussion moves something forward for each of us. And so with teaching, it's like, even though I'm like dropping things into them, like it's moving their lives forward in one way or the other.
Moving society.
So that's really what I think is like my element when I say that. Discourse and sort of interacting with people and seeing people process.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any dreams still?
Dreams. I wanna have a foundation that, like, I don't want to call it girls empowerment because I told you I don't really see lines, like, like I just like.
But
I just want. Girls? It's about empowerment. It's for girls who have unfortunately sort of bought into this idea of like, I'm a girl and I'm only supposed to do X and I can only do Y, and it's like, fuck all that. Like,
but
what? Come on, but basically what my parents did for me,
you want to do it
is
for other
what
people.
I want to do for other people.
I think that'd be dope. That'd be really dope. Of course, for black.
Yes.
For black. Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Shout out to Juneteenth. I remember this is completely side note, but I want to share the joke. My manager, she's black. She's a black woman. She was they scheduled like meetings on this upcoming Monday for Juneteenth. Mm-hmm. She was like, I'm about to do work the day I was supposed to be free.
That's not happening.
Yeah, shout out to Juneteenth.
Not happening.
What I want to talk about Decorel for just 1 second. Mm-hmm. I know Elle says something across the lines of she really wants to go back home. There's something about going home and serving home, even though you may not live there full time, because I do be seeing your Instagram. You be home.
I'm there more than I am here.
Yeah, I'm about to say, like, the winter months, I don't see that here at all. You know what I'm saying? So, what is the connection to home, to starting something? I know Elle said something, she wanted to do something to where she has a warehouse or something. I don't want to misquote or anything of that, but she want to have a Decorel in back home. Mm-hmm. What is the connection to home and the hardships of actually compared to starting in America to taking it back home, to where it may be too expensive, it may be, politics or whatever and so forth?
There's so many things. Acceptance of the sort of idea or the presence of us, even though we were born there and are Ghanaian, the fact that we live here, have been educated here, and call this place home, there's already some resistance.
Really? Even in Ghana?
There's already some resistance. They would rather a Lebanese or a Chinese,
somebody
or
that's not from
European,
there. Really?
Right? Because that's the thing. Like, foreign is better to them. It's like, that's just what it is.
Well, I grew up in church. They say Jesus went back home and his own people didn't accept him. So it's kind of like, I kind of see what she means by that.
They're like, when you come back home, it's like, oh, you think you're better than us. Mm-hmm. You've gone and now you're going to come tell us what to do and how to do it. Like, we're fine. That's kind of the attitude. So that's number one, the resistance. The number two is, of course, capital. It's capital intensive because everything is complicated and more, like, it doesn't have to be as hard or difficult as it is, but it is. And so, there's clearing the furniture, making sure, like, the people who are going to manufacture the furniture are doing it properly. Like, and a lot of
building the furniture.
We want, yes. Oh, wow. So we want to do a made in Ghana line. Mm-hmm. And that requires, of course, like, getting carpenters who are going to be consistent. And that's like a big issue. There's like this attitude of like, it'll be alright. Like, this is cool. Like, the thing is crooked and the economy is like, well, they will tell you, well, they can sit on it, so what's the problem? It's like, the problem is it deviates from what I said you should do.
Yeah.
Wow. And so the frustration, the stress that comes with trying something new in a place where meh is fine. Like, they're okay with Oh, but we're not. We're not okay with that.
That is so interesting. That kind of leads me to your point, Chen, that you wanted to touch on with black businesses and black excellence and things like that. Do you feel like you have a burden to make sure that, since you are one of the heads of a black business, to make sure there is an excellence to it? Or is it like, since we are black, you should just accept it as you would just explain just now?
I wouldn't say that it's a burden. I think excellence is the bare minimum. Mm-hmm.
Really?
The bare minimum. And that might be just like the Ghanaian in me. It's like my parents told me or taught me, if you're gonna do it, just do it well. Mm-hmm. Don't just do it for doing's sake.
Yeah.
Everything you do has to be excellent, even if it's fetching water, right? Even if it's like just writing down your name, it has to be excellent. So it's either, you might as well say you didn't do it if it's not excellent.
Yeah.
So you might as well just not do it at all.
No, that was my sister. That was my cousin.
Right? So I think that's like the base. Mm. And I think that an added pressure to make it more excellent because we are a Black-owned business, simply because people read into things that we don't necessarily put out, right? It's like, oh, of course, it's because they're Black. It's like, no, it's not. Like, life happens.
Because I was a fan of you guys' business. I remember you posted something on your personal IG page. And I was like, oh, what is this? I didn't even know you was a part of it at the time. I was like, oh, this is lit.
It looks straight out of a magazine.
Facts. But I never saw you guys say, hey, support Black business, or this is a Black-owned business. It was like it was kind of like, oh, like I'm Chine Doon, but I also happen to be Black. Now, I'm a Black man whose name is Chine Doon. And that's kind of what I saw in your business. So, one, do you see yourself as a Black business, or do you see yourself as a business owned by two Black women?
We're a business owned by two Black women, two very proud Black women. We are proud of our Blackness. We know the significance of what it is. We started the business knowing that there aren't that many Black designers. But our Blackness is not like part of our business. It's like we want to do excellent work, and we just happen to be Black too. I'm not of the school of thought that just because, of course, I was looking for, when I was getting dressed for this, I was looking for my shirt that says, rooting for everybody Black. And of course I couldn't find it. But it's not, I don't root for everybody Black just because they're Black. No, there's some nonsense people out there. Some nonsense stuff. And so what I don't want is over expectation because they are Black, or under expectation because they're Black. I think that's not fair.
Yeah.
I think some people, especially Black people, I feel like we're really hard on ourselves.
Each other.
We own each other, and we go to these, we patronize these businesses, and then if something goes wrong, just one thing, two things, three things, it's like, Black people never gonna be free. And it's just like, I dropped the plate. Plates get dropped in restaurants all the time.
Yeah, it's just because you're Black, it's like you're not supposed to make those mistakes.
Exactly. It's kind of like the whole, like, when you in a meeting and then the one Black person shows up late, you're like,
you're making us.
You made us look bad. But it's like, life happens. But we don't say that about white people.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like, if they walk in late, it's like the assumption is like, oh, they must have had a really important meeting. But
I ain't gonna lie. My mom lives in a Black neighborhood, and she lives in like an affluent area. And we saw some white people. It's like, oh, they moving in.
But also on the flip side, if you give me terrible service,
oh boy,
it's terrible.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with you.
It's not terrible because you're Black.
And you're saying you don't feel the need to show grace that much if it's terrible. Like, basically it's like, okay, I see you trying, my guy. I see you Black. I see you trying, my lady. But come on. like come on. Matter of fact, I give you a perfect example, and then we go break for part 2. I had an engagement. I proposed to my lady of 6 years.
Woo!
I know, right?
Show us the ring.
I know, right?
Show us the ring.
and I'll please stop.
So this is the part where we add more work. We add more work.
And I rented chairs and tables because I proposed. I actually proposed. And I planned a surprise engagement party, so I needed tables, I needed chairs, I needed all these things. So
you went to a Black.
Can we preface this with say that this guy was like, always give grace to Black businesses.
Yes.
And I was like, make sure I get my money's worth.
Yes, I wanted to get chairs. Okay. I wanted to rent party equipment from him so bad, like I wanted to.
Can we put his name out?
Yes, I will put his name out. Right, and the worst time to rent party equipment apparently is during May, because that's when everybody's graduating. That's when everybody so
Mother's Day.
Exactly. So I was able. I think it was Memorial Weekend too.
Yeah.
So I was able to reach out to him weeks before, and he said, "I got you." You know, his name George Williams.
He said, "I got you."
He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said, I got you. Basically, like, I straight secured my order.
No receipt.
No. I had all that. Like,
Okay.
like I had everything down.
Okay.
It was secure. It was.
What's his business name?
It was professional. I think it's called Top Tables or something like that, right? And it was professional. Everything was good. The only thing he said just pay me once you come pick up the table. I said okay, fine. Tables and chairs. So days before I actually about to pick up the tables and chairs, he said I miscounted how much I had, and I don't have no tables or chairs for you
At all.
Right?
So you had to go to the what type of business?
Shout out to my Mexicans. Because like I told you, the worst time to do it last minute. This is days before I had to pick it up. Everybody was out. They didn't have tables for me. They didn't have chairs. George Williams said that he miscounted, and he thought that he would have had chairs and tables for me, and he didn't have it. And he forced me to give my $1 to the Mexican community and things like that. And
black and brown.
Force is wow. Force is wow.
And shout out to them because they came through. I pulled up and they put the chairs and tables in the car for me and everything. And shout out to them. But that was my experience, one of many, that made me say, "Hey, man, I may not come back to you because you told me that my order was secured."
Exactly.
And then you had me running with my head cut off the last day or so to pick it up. But that was a funny, interesting story. But I actually want to go more in depth about black businesses and how you feel and things like that. So we gonna do a part 2 and so forth.